The content presented in this podcast and YouTube show is for informational and entertainment purposes only. It is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the guidance of your physician or other qualified healthcare provider with any questions you may have regarding your health or a medical condition. Never disregard professional medical advice or delay in seeking it because of something you have heard or seen on this show. If you think you may have a medical emergency, call your doctor or emergency services immediately. The host, guests, and producers of this show are not responsible for any adverse effects resulting from your use of or reliance on any information presented.
Andrea, can you hear us?
Many years ago, I died for 26 seconds. There are so many people in this world that have experienced life events that have led to their soul purpose. Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea will bring you these significant life events that demonstrate how to use those moments for guidance and life purpose. These are our stories. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Wake Up Your Soul with Andrea Lynn. Today's guest is a best-selling author, Inna Segal. I'm very excited to have her here. I actually bought her book. It's called The Secret Language of Your Body. And let's just bring her on because this is everything that I love. So I think it's going to be everything that my listeners love as well. We'll just dive straight into this. Hi, Inna. How are you?
I'm great. How are you, Andrea?
I'm good. I'm really excited because this is my jam. Like when I got this book, I was like, oh, I love these types of things. I really love reading about trapped emotions in the body and the illnesses that they cause, which is basically what the book is about, right? The emotions and then the illnesses that we have, and then how we can change those illnesses within the body.
Yeah, how we can access this wisdom of our body slash soul, that we have within ourselves.
Yeah. So tell us how you got into doing this. This is a little bit woo-woo, a little bit spiritual, but how did you come to even discovering this?
Well, I actually grew up with just going to doctors, and from the perspective of medicine, I was born in Eastern Europe, and I actually remember being at school and having experiments done to prove that nothing spiritual exists. So definitely, in my awareness until later, had no, it wasn't something that was really spoken about or that I was aware of until I later found out that my great grandmother was a clairvoyant. But as I grew up, I did not know any of this.
Were these experiments to prove that it didn't exist? I'm just curious. I'm sure everybody's like, wait a minute, hold up.
To be fair, I was so young. I just remember having like bowls of water, in some kind of with I don't know what, and being in class and being told that there's nothing spiritual, that it's that we're fully physical beings, and I couldn't tell you the exact things that they did. I just remember it was a constant, like, I guess no one could talk about God or anything spiritual in any way or form at the time. So it wasn't something when I was there that really came up, to be honest, any conversation. And so I was very skeptical. I was very much into the let's go to the doctors and they know what to do. I'll just take the pill. I am in no way, responsible for my health or have anything to do with it. It's some magical thing that happens. Like I see people say this online at times where they go, I was really unlucky and I got this disease. And
Mhm,
I was that person, really unlucky. I got this pain,
mhm,
and so it never really occurred to me when I was younger. I was struggling with digestive issues. I had psoriasis all over my skin, which actually connected to my family. My grandfather has a my dad, his twin sisters, they're covered with it. I started getting it when I was about maybe 10 and a half, 11. And then when I was at school around the age of 14, I went to this private school because my parents were like, okay, she's very motivated, which I was because I'd been told so many times we didn't come, I live in Australia, we didn't come here for you not to do anything. So you need to achieve, 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 achieve. And so I went to this school. It was a private school. And at that moment, they were giving discounts, like major discounts to people from Eastern Europe. And what my parents didn't realize is the conflict it was caused between people who are like insanely wealthy in this school and people from Eastern Europe, like myself, who didn't pay for anything, basically. My parents just, even with the little payment they made, they were struggling. And there was a lot of kind of bullying and putting down for that.
Yeah, that's hard.
So all my friends and I say this, we're walking around with our shoulders hunched, just self-protect mode. And quite a few of my friends developed scoliosis, whereas I was just dealing with lower back pain, which is very interesting when you break it down because it's very connected to survival and struggle with money, and just always feeling like there's not enough. So I was going through that, and my mum was taking me to doctors, physiotherapists, because there would be times where I really struggled to sit, to walk. I'd constantly be moving around, even when I was at school, and I'd be called on it. And so it was just this challenge. And then as I get older, it got worse. And then at 19, I got pregnant. And in my mind, it was like, oh my God, I definitely out of all my friends just thought I would be the last one because I was like, I want to achieve, I want to do acting, and I was starting to write and act. And so I was like, that's not in my plans. And then when that happened, it took a while for me to get my head around it. And I really did. And I was looking forward to it. And the first really strong hit of intuition I got was, which I didn't even know what it was at the time, really, was a couple of weeks before the baby was due. So I was already 8 months pregnant at the time. And I remember feeling like something's wrong, something's off. And talking to the nurse about it. And I was really, really struggling with anxiety. I was struggling with back pain. I literally could hardly walk at that stage. And she was saying, hey, everything's fine. You're making it up. I'm like, something's wrong with the heart. I don't know. I just feel it. She's like, no, no, no. You're becoming over anxious. It's all fine. So anyway, 2 weeks later, I ended up in the hospital and I gave birth and the baby died. And in my mind, I think that was the kind of the accumulation explosion of everything because I could not comprehend it. It was literally on my birthday. So I just turned 20.
Oh gosh.
How I could be this young and, I remember thinking something is insanely wrong with me because it's not possible. I've never heard this before. I'm in Australia. How does this happen? And from there, I just became super depressed. I just wanted to die. I was constantly anxious. I could hardly eat. I was really, really struggling with things. And I was seeing this chiropractor 3 times a week and many other people, mind you, to get better but I wasn't really participating in this getting better. I ended up doing this course, and in this course, you had to do this exercise where you kind of, you go to this island and you might live or die, and you have to fight for your life. Obviously, just by doing this exercise. And of course, I was the person, who was the youngest in this group. And I got kicked out of this boat because I couldn't be bothered. I couldn't fight for it, and all I wanted to do was to discover what it felt like to die. And obviously everything in my body was falling apart when you have that mindset. And also my mindset was that there's nothing I can do about it. Like my body's not my own. I'm going to all these people and they can't help me. And so then I had this moment where I ended up in this chiropractor's office because I was seeing him 3 times a week anyway. And I was just in this agony and really struggling, but not moving forward. And he came out of his office and he just said to me, your body's stuck. And I was like, that part I know. So should I come into your office? Like, what are you going to do about it, basically? And he just stood there for a minute. And I think he was kind of going, yeah, something like, I really need to help her. But what I've been doing for the last year is not working.
Mhm.
And so he said to me, well, there's nothing I can do for you. Your body wants to be stuck, like you want to be stuck, go home. I was so angry, so angry on the way home. So I forgot my depression. But for the first time in my life at that point, I went, okay, I'm going to heal myself. I'm fine. I've been to all these people. I'm going to heal myself. So I went home and I literally started just by holding my hands on my back and breathing into it. And, people have to understand, I was insanely skeptical. I'm such a skeptic. I had gone to all the people, alternative and not. I did not believe in anything anymore because I would have experiences of getting slightly better and then going backwards, slightly better, going back. As I was breathing into my pain, I realized, oh, I never breathe deeply. I always hold my breath and I like as shallowly as possible because I don't want to feel my pain. And as I was feeling this pain and it was moving through my body, it wasn't easy. I was really struggling and my mind was going crazy. And so I started counting backwards from 30 just to calm myself down. And in that moment, this thought came into my head, well, I actually wonder if there is really something divine out there. So now we get to the divine part. Now, just to go back a little bit, when I had the experience of this baby dying, I was so shocked. I was in like total shock and numbness. And this being who called himself or called itself an angel appeared to me and said, don't worry, you will have two children soon. And I felt calm for about 3 hours.
Hmm.
I remember walking around saying, I'm going to use this experience to help people and so on and so forth. And then it wore off after 3 hours. And so I had this experience, but I didn't know if I believed it or not.
Mhm.
And because it hadn't actually happened. So how do I know that I was in shock and didn't make it up?
Right.
But at that moment, I was conflicted, and I just went, well, I wonder if there is something divine out there because I'm a bit lost. And if there is, I actually would like help and I need it now. And at that moment, it just felt like this warmth, like sunshine came into my body. And as I had my eyes closed, I could see this golden light. And I thought to myself, okay, something's happening. And then this other thought occurred to me from absolutely nowhere. I never had it before. And it was just the strangest thing. And the thought was, I wonder what my back looks like. And I felt like this light switch, like somebody put this light on. That's the only way to describe it. And all of a sudden, I could see my back. I could see how inflamed it was and twisted and all of this. And I got a shock, but I also kind of felt this alignment in my thinking, feeling, and will. And I just went, why do I have this? But not from this victim perspective, like I'd been victim, but from really wanting to know. And all of these images, and I didn't know that I was a very visual person, all of these images that are coming of the schools, of bullying, of conflict with my parents, lack of money, struggle, my grandparents going through the war and losing people in their family. My grandmother lost all her brothers and sisters, and she was one of 8. And how I was this sponge, and I started to feel my body internally unwind. It was the weirdest feeling of just like this letting go of stuckness. And then I fell asleep. And the next day when I woke up, 70% of the back pain was gone. And I wasn't twisted. Yeah, I could move, but I was so skeptical. I just thought, oh my God, I've had this experience before when I felt better. So I'm not believing this yet. And so for the next several weeks, I just kept exploring, journaling, connecting pieces together and asking lots of questions and getting these insights from my body and kind of feeling more unwinding. There was a lot of emotions that came out. I cried a lot and felt through things and got insights and wisdom and changed my perspectives. And after a few weeks, it was like my pain never existed. It was gone. Never had it since. And then my psoriasis, which there was quite a bit of it, all over my knees, all over my elbows, disappeared. Never had it back.
Was that a generational thing, the psoriasis? Like
Yeah.
generational trauma?
Yeah.
Yeah, because you said
Um,
family members had it.
yeah. And my grandfather, now that you're saying it, I remember him saying that there was something where he was selling something at a market and in like the black market, at the time. And there was a policeman running after him. And I think he said after that, like his skin just came out in psoriasis.
Mm.
But my dad has it and that's not his father, that's my mom's father. So my dad has his twin sisters just covered, So there's obviously a trauma element connected to it. And I also had a lot of digestive issues that took a lot longer to work on. I would say that because that was absolutely intertwined with my grandparents, with loss, with not being able to talk about what happened because this is an area of assimilation and digesting experiences. So yeah, that's where I went, okay, wow, something happened that was real. I actually went to see the chiropractor for a checkup 6 months later, and he said, I don't know what you've done, but whatever you're doing, keep going. Don't stop.
You're like, "I don't know what I'm doing either, but it's what."
Yeah, exactly.
So it's funny, the story you're talking about, the digestive stuff, because it's making me think about, so I got diagnosed with ulcerative colitis, I think I was about 23 or so, and I battled that for a while and then eventually got it into remission and I didn't have any problems. I wasn't taking any meds for it or anything. And I would say I was in remission for probably a good 10 years, like a very, very long time. No problems at all. And then we were moving from California to Texas. And on this move, we stopped at this hotel that scared the living daylights out of me. Like it was scary. Even the guy in the office was like, "Well, if I would have known you had kids, I would have put you like close to the office," even though this was the weirdest office I've ever seen, telling us, just don't bother the crackheads and they won't bother you. And we had a 3-month-old baby, a puppy, and my 4-year-old, or I think she was 3 at the time, almost 4. And so I just fear hit me fast and hard, and I immediately had to go to the bathroom. And then it's maybe TMI for some people, but it is what it is. And then we moved on to another hotel. There was no way I was gonna stay there. So we drove, I don't know how long, but we just kept driving until we found a hotel we could stay at because we also had our puppy with us, so we needed a dog-friendly place. So eventually we find a place. I feel like it was probably close to midnight-ish, maybe later. I woke up at 4 in the morning and I couldn't stop going to the bathroom. Could not stop. Full on like flare, here it came, UC was back. And I called my doctor and I told him, like, I need help now. Like, I can't even get around. So I ended up, I think I had some stuff to help me stop things. And we moved on to another hotel in a better area in a different state. And then once we were there, I got some medications from the doctor. I had to get on steroids to stop it. And then, yeah, UC was back, but it's really wild. I always look back on that and see how much I know it was just such a fear triggered response and illness. It's wild. I mean, it was seriously 10 years with nothing, like no symptoms. Bowels were great. And then within a moment, it was like hours later, the disease was back.
Well, because essentially when something like that happens, depends on how you deal with it, right? So if you take medication, it's like you calm it down
Mhm.
and, it can go into a place of more calmness because so much of it is connected to your life story, how you take that in and digest it, like you're saying.
Mhm.
And So it's sitting there. And what people don't understand is that we have this physical body and we have subtle bodies. And one of those is the etheric body. And the etheric body, which is a copy of the physical, looks almost identical, is also the body of memory. So when people talk about cellular memory, which I've done as well, the cell in itself does not have memory in that way by itself, but the etheric body holds that memory, and which is why you could get better. So if the cell literally had memory, you would never get better in that way.
Mhm.
Right? It's not, it's illogical. So the body was operating and that experience was being held. It was still imprinted in the etheric body. And then you had this big trauma, that for other people may not look like a trauma, but for you, it triggered something of a memory potentially that had been hidden.
Mhm.
And then the physical body went into chaos and went into what it knows when it's under attack. Yeah, so people don't want to do the work. And I've been in this situation where I've been doing this for 25 years and I haven't had another job. Just been learning,
Mhm.
just been kind of tuning into people and understanding and going to courses and classes and reading about it and having one-on-one teachers and learning from thousands and thousands and thousands of students, that I've worked with, because you always learn when you're teaching or when you've got somebody one-on-one in front of you. And essentially, our soul embodies the physical body, right? And when I'm working with somebody and tuning in, trying to understand their story, like your story, and trying to put the pieces of the puzzle together, it's like I'm looking at their soul, their etheric body. So the subtle bodies meets the physical, and how the physical responds to this and why something becomes a physical issue or a physical challenge.
So you start asking too a lot of questions, and I'm assuming because I know for myself with my gifts, I've talked about it in other episodes, and I share that I have psychic medium gifts and healing gifts as well. And for me, it starts with the questioning and the asking because people will often ask me, like, we're just in conversation. They're like, "Are you reading me right now? Were you picking up anything?" And I'm like, "Well, no, because I wasn't trying to." And maybe you totally do it differently. But for me, if I'm in the middle of a conversation, I'm just having a conversation with you. I really am. I'm not trying to tune into that. And if I am trying to tune into it, the way I operate is I'm asking God to give me the information because if it's not meant to be given to me, then I'm not going to get it. So if people think I'm going to hold all the answers for them, I may and I may not. I'm only going to have what is meant to be heard for you. And that's the way I operate with it. But it comes through that questioning where I'm asking, what does this person need to know or what is wrong with them? And I ask God to give me the information I need to deliver to them. And then I get what I get. But sometimes people assume I'm gonna get anything and everything or that I'm always just picking up things. And I mean, sometimes, yes, I think sometimes things do just pop through, and I think it's because it's very much needed to be shared. But for me, I operate from a different place where I don't tune into it unless I'm asked to by somebody.
Yeah. And I have to say, when I first started, I had to learn this.
Yeah.
This was when I first started and it kind of all opened up. It was definitely, I could cross the road and see things about people. I remember I was in a yoga class. I had to get slapped a few times to actually learn some boundary. I was in a yoga class and told somebody, I remember literally because I was starting to write, including journalism, I decided that I was going to interview a lot of people who were in this kind of, who wrote books about it or who were teaching about it. And one of the people who, she was actually an event organizer for quite a very, very famous person who was coming out to Australia. And I took her flyer, I remember, and I knew immediately she had cancer. Immediately, like that second, I was like, oh, wow, she has cancer. And then it was this whole storyline about her husband and like they'd broken up and I knew the whole story. And because I was so young, I was 21 years old, I kind of went, I do it. I have to call her. I didn't want to interview this person at the time that she was promoting, but I was like, I have to call her. I have to tell her. So I literally called her and left him. Like, she didn't pick up the phone. I left a message, and halfway as I was talking, on her answer machine, she picked up the phone. She was like, "Hi," and she went, "Oh my god," and she was lovely, So
Yeah.
she was, she just kind of went, um. "Yes, you're right. Can you help me? And can you also help this person who's coming because he's got healthy issues as well?"
Yeah.
So, I was, I literally over time had to figure out how to switch it on and off, to protect myself as well,
Mhm.
to protect my sanity. Sometimes if I'm really, really focusing on a person they're speaking, let's say it is a speaker in front of me, or I'm talking to somebody for a long period of time, it can start to come up for me or
Yeah.
appear.
Yeah.
But usually, I ask.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's always good to get permission, but I also think you don't necessarily have to ask that person directly. You can ask the soul,
Yeah.
right? And then have permission through that way. And I mean, sometimes I find myself standing in line somewhere looking at somebody and I'm just kind of in a daze, like you're saying, where you're just kind of staring at somebody and I'm like,
Yeah.
I feel something. And then I'm like, okay, what's wrong with this person? Like, go ahead and tell me, Then I'm like, I'm not going to tell them. I'm not going to go tap somebody random on the shoulder and be like, hey,
Yeah. It's better not to do that. Because I found that.
yeah. So talk a little bit about energy medicine and explain that to people that have never heard of it. I did an episode similar, not similar to, I mean, somewhat similar, but like on energy medicine. But it's always good to have different perspectives. Just talking about energy medicine.
Well, I think from my perspective, I have always wanted to work with every part of ourselves. So I see it as everything from energy. And people can actually experience energy very quickly and easily. All you have to do is try it. Rub your hands together for about 30 seconds and then literally move them apart and you will feel energy.
Do you think you need to rub your hands? Because I actually don't. I usually start like this and I wait till they start to tingle and then they start to tingle. And then I do like you're saying like that. And it's kind of like a rubber band. And then I'm like stretching the energy. But I will share that for me, because I am religious, I ask God to bring in the healing energy. That's really how it starts for me. And it comes on hot and heavy if it's meant to. For somebody, I ask God, can you please bring your healing energy to my hands for this person and allow me to hear and know what I need to know for this person and deliver. And then my hands just start tingling. And then I just start kind of like you're saying, but yeah, I hold my hands together and I just start stretching it and I can feel it. You can feel it. You just feel it.
I think that when people are sensitized already, they don't need to rub their hands together or do things like that. But if you're completely new and you don't even know what energy is,
Okay.
it's just the easiest way to get a set to understand what we're talking about, to experience it.
I feel like
So
some people would think, oh, well, I just made the friction. So of course it's warm. Of course it's hot. Cause I did it to somebody once. She's like, what is it? And I was like, just put your hands out. And so then I brought in the energy and then I just started, across her hands and she was like, whoa, like that feels weird. But it is the coolest thing because people often, when they have their eyes closed, if I'm like bringing it across their body, I actually want to hear what you say. People say they feel, because for me, they often are saying that they feel tingles and they feel, I don't know, just kind of waves, I think, of heat, maybe. They'll feel and they'll see colors and they're often like, "Are you touching me?" I'm like, "Nope, not touching you," but it feels like you're touching them.
yeah, exactly that. Or they'll say, "Are you at my head? Because I feel like you're touching, my head." And it's like, "No, I'm at your feet."
Yeah.
So yeah, I feel like depending on the level of being sensitized, so many people are desensitized. So we kind of have to start with that.
I wanna go back to what you said in the very beginning where you said, like, you were so sick and then finally you got to this point where you're like, "What if?" what if there's another way? What if spirituality is something that could cure me? And I really think that's where it begins, is really that question of like, what if? And then maybe I just trust it, see what happens.
Absolutely. Exactly. And it just used to remind me of one client that I had many, many years ago, and he was an accountant. So very desensitized, very much in his head. And he came in, and I remember I got him to lie on the massage table, and I was working with my hands with energy and clearing a lot of things, and just seeing what was going on. And he sat up and he said, "Oh my God, thank you so much. That was amazing." And I said, "Really?" It was amazing. And he said, "Yeah, yeah." And I went, "What did you feel?" And he went, "Nothing." And I went, "What do you mean, nothing?" And he said, "Well, it just looked to me when I opened my eyes like you knew exactly what you were doing." I said, "But you felt nothing." And he was like, "Yeah, I didn't feel anything, but I trust you because you look like you know." And what was really interesting, speaking of desensitizing and sensitizing, that it literally took 2 years of me seeing him regularly to help him to sensitize. And the thing was that, and often it is, that when he was young, when he was a child, he felt deeply rejected by his mother. And because he felt deeply rejected by his mother, he literally shut down his heart. And the heart is actually the area that sensitizes you. So the more open your heart is, the more sensitized you are. And the more shut down, the more you just don't feel things. You're numb, you're depressed, you have all sorts of things going on. And people don't realize that intuition, so it's like inner wisdom, inner tuition, being in tune with yourself is listening to your heart, is connecting to that internal wisdom, which opens up the doors to what you're saying, to God, to divinity, to so on. And we feel divinity through our heart. We feel love, whether it's love from a person or love from the divine, through our hearts. And this is where this energy comes in. But again, I just want to say that with my work, energy is only one small part of it.
Okay.
Firstly, I try and help people to understand wisdom. And it starts from looking at the wisdom of each part of your body, to understanding your, I guess, your energy system as the chakra system, because they work together and give very different perspectives. So whilst my liver, for instance, connecting to my liver and the wisdom of my liver will give me information around, it's connected to, we know even from Chinese medicine that it's connected to more of our masculine side. It holds a lot of anger, it holds a lot of fear and stresses and anxiety. But as we start to go further and explore, if I look at more of the energetic system, the chakra system, then it actually tells me timelines because it's connected to my solar plexus chakra. And I've delved deep into this. This chakra is in particular connected to the age of 14 to 21.
Mm.
So when we're looking at, oh, where did things start? We might go, well, did my liver issue start when I felt it and when things were showing up? Or did I have challenges with my father or father figure or male in my life between the ages of 14 and 21? Can I look at that?
Mhm.
So I am a big believer in finding timelines. When people are constantly talking about this root cause idea, which to me is really about understanding, when was the seed, when this did the seed of a potential challenge start? And when this seed starts is not when the disease starts.
Mhm.
It's never when the disease starts, usually, unless, it's a very physical kind of, like I poisoned myself or something. So, that like we still have to be logical here. And so, yeah. So I look at several timelines in terms of creating a map for a person and understanding what happened and all the links, because I found that And just if I can give an example of a friend of mine, and I very rarely, I resist doing healings with my friends, but this is a wonderful friend, and I met her. She actually came to several workshops, and I was in a few months ago with her, and she struggled with. She has a tumor in her back, and but it's a benign tumor, but it still affects her. She still gets pain and nervous system issues and challenges and so on. And I said to her, look, hey, we're going to sit down and we're going to literally figure out exactly what this is about. And one of the things that I realized coming back to energy healing, that when you kind of activate your hands, like you were talking about, I work with something called the etheric hands. So from the etheric body. So I really sensitize and work with these hands. And because I know memory is in the etheric body, people talk about conscious and subconscious. And I'm like, but where is it? Show me. Can you tell me where it is? And nobody can tell you pretty much. Whereas in studying this, that's my question. I realized that the unconscious parts of us are actually connected to something called our astral body. And every time we go to sleep, when we go into that unconscious state, like where dreamless, let's say dreamless state, we don't have pain, we don't have any sensations, we don't remember it, because essentially every time we go to sleep, this astral body goes out into the spiritual world because it needs to regenerate.
Well,
And we not often, but at times when we wake up, we go, like, there's a thud, and we wake up with this thud, and we're like, oh, I'm here. Well, that's the astral body coming back in. And so I'm a person who needs to know details. Like, I need to know everything. I cannot just sit there and not know. I have hundreds of books that very, very few people on this, planet would sit and read because they're that complex and layered, in my library that I literally bought in the last few years. Like I spent I think it was like $12,000 or $13,000 just on books in the last couple of, because I'm like, I want to learn more. I want to know more in terms of details of all this stuff. And so again, coming back to, with this friend of mine, so I was like, I want to work with my etheric hands because I know memories in the etheric body. So I'm going to connect with my hands to your etheric body and allow myself through all the timelines. Firstly, when you develop the tumor, but also when the seeds came in. And what was really interesting was that, and this kind of helps people to understand how I work, I also work a lot with archetypes, because when I had originally started, I did a lot of exploration with emotions, and I obviously write about it a lot. And one of the things I realized with emotions is that there is no beginning, there's no end, there's no middle. You don't actually know. And what people would do is then generalize, like there's so many generalizations in healing. They generalize emotions and they go, I'm angry. I'm really angry right now. And it's like, all of you are a part of you. Because what I keep saying to people is that anger that I feel in my throat and anger that I feel in my heart and anger that I feel in my stomach are not the same anger. They're not coming from the same storyline. They're not coming. The anger in my throat could be all about that when I was younger, somebody shut me down when I was speaking, and now I'm angry and I don't really know how to express myself properly. And I'm being shut down again, or somebody's being aggressive to me. And so I have this energy of anger around my throat. And then if it's in my heart, it could be from under. So anger is often the end result. So underneath that could be deep rejection. They hurt me, they rejected me, and I'm really angry about it. And then in my stomach, the anger could be connected to my ancestors, that they were hurt, they went to the war, they were killed, but also the fact that I'm having experiences that I cannot process and I just keep pushing things away. So it's very, very different. And when people generalize, they go round and round in circles. And they go, but I screamed and shouted and, I took my pillow and I was banging on it and I'm still angry. And like, and I still have this issue. And so this was coming up again and again. And I went, hold on a sec. We need to break this down into structure. I like structure. So I like logic and I like structure. So I went, so if I was to specify the emotion and specify where it is in the body and specify timeline and actually truly understand what is the perspective, not just the beliefs. Because there's the beliefs and this is how I see my life. Like, this is what my life is. So what is the perspective that this part of you is holding? And what are the stories? Because there's not one story, there's many years of stories connected to this particular archetype. And then I could develop a relationship with my wise self, which is the part of me that's connected to wisdom of the divine, where I don't know what I don't know. And I can receive, this divinity that makes me go, oh my God, wow. And so I can develop my wise divine self that can connect with parts of me that got stuck, that got stunted, that got terrified and didn't grow and didn't recover from it. And so I realized that by structuring it in this way, I could really understand what's going on for a person. So coming back to this friend of mine, so I was using my etheric hands and like I know her, but she lives in another city, so I don't know lots of things about her past and her real story. We're friends like from connecting to each other and talking about topics we like. And so with my etheric hands, they stopped at the age of 46.
Hmm.
And I said to her, so what happened at 46? So she's about, I don't know, like 62 now. What happened at 46? And she started telling me stories about, we went on this holiday. And I was like, no, 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 no. And this is how I work. Because I'm like, no, no, not connected, something else. And I said to her, hold on a sec. I'm seeing an archetype of your feminine and she's throwing up. So she's like literally holding her stomach and throwing up. So I'm like, this is where we need to go. I need to understand why she's doing this. And she said, well, okay, a year. And I'm like, and also tell me what happened the year before. There's something about this, like year before, year later, this timeline. And she said, okay, well, the year before my father died and the year after I got diagnosed. And that particular year, I was feeling that like something was wrong and I needed to get diagnosed. And I was like, okay, very interesting, this throwing up thing. Let's come back to it. So we go further back and I stop at 36. And I was like, what happened at 36? And she went, well, the year before my mother died. I was like, really? Okay, interesting that these are the two timelines that are so connected. Both of your parents died. And I'm going, okay, so because I saw that archetypal image, and this is how the body speaks, this is how the soul speaks of her throwing up. It's like, what happened? Why is this? What was the throwing up about? And as we were connecting the pieces, she said, well, the first time ever I could be honest about who I was because I couldn't be honest with my parents.
Mm.
And I fully understood. And I also understood at that moment why she didn't get a malignant tumor. That she literally, because all of a sudden she didn't have to pretend, in terms of her relationship and what she was going through to her family members, to her parents. And she could start to be herself. But the years of pretense actually created this tumor. But as we were going backwards, this was so, so fascinating. My hands then went back to 28, the age of 28. And I said, what happened? She said, well, actually, the first time that I got into this, particular relationship, and it became real, but I had to lie to everybody and hide. And so did my partner. And so I went, that's when the tumor started at 28. Because, yeah, it became physical, it became real. You actually went, I am different to other people, around me. and now I have to lie about it.
Mhm.
And I have to pretend. And, you know, we went back to 21. And when she was 21, she was learning about God and spirituality. But that God was the type of God that made you feel bad about being different,
Mhm.
about who you are. And so she was constantly in conflict, but the physical issue didn't start. And what was so interesting about it starting at 28 was that when we look at the energetics of it, the chakra that develops at 28 is the throat chakra. And the actual tumor is at the back of is in, her neck, at the back of her throat. So it was like,
Mhm.
oh, the body's so wise and so intelligent. This makes complete sense. But we actually ended up going back further to when she was 12 and 6. And this is at 6 years old, she realized that some sensations that she had and some connections that she had were somehow seen was wrong in
Mhm.
terms of society and that she had to hide. So this hiding happened for years and years and years before it became physical.
Okay.
And so with working on it, we looked at these archetypes and I was like, okay, we're going to work with these archetypes, meet some energetic, processes. And some of these processes are called like soul fragments, for instance. So when we have trauma, we lose parts and we argue or we hide or we become different to what we are. It's like we lose parts of this soul energy.
Mhm.
And we often take on other people's energy that's not our own and make it our own. And we feel somehow like something's not comfortable within us because we don't feel like we're fully ourselves.
Mhm.
And so we were recognizing that and also transforming this type of energy. So this is where it's energetic. And then her working with her archetypes is understanding her thinking, her story, her relationship. And she said to me at one point, one of the archetypes, she's like, oh, this is going to be a challenge. And I said, why? She goes, because I connected to her and she just turned away from me and went, I don't even want to talk to you. Well, these parts don't want to talk to us because they feel abandoned by us.
Mhm.
Huge part of healing, I am writing a book about different stages of healing, is actually bringing this back to your own self so that all of you can grow together.
Okay. Yeah. I want to ask, because that story leads me into, people that are looking to have their own spiritual awakening. What would you say to them? How can they get themselves to have their own spiritual awakening? What can they start with? Like they're just wanting to, have this awakening where they just kind of start tapping into themselves and they're able to start seeing the thing. It's hard because for me, I don't know, things just naturally started to happen. It sounds like same for you, but then obviously you keep going with it. But I know there's people that feel like they've never seen any spiritual presence, no sign of it.
So again, I'm going to say it is all comes back to connecting to your heart and checking how numb and blocked this part of you is. And I encourage people to do a really easy exercise. Stand up and place your hands on your heart. And by breathing into it, actually, you were saying about asking questions,
Mhm.
actually ask, how closed or open is my heart? And
Mhm.
then even use your hands and kind of expand, open your arms up and check where are you at? And this is a great thing to do
Um,
daily.
and is that gonna be like you feel resistance at some point? Is that what you're saying? Like you start to
Yeah,
open.
you'll just feel like, oh, I'm only this open or I'm really open today. And then actually exploring, if I'm feeling very tense, very shut down, so you start asking questions, what am I numbing? And being really honest with yourself. What am I shutting down? What am I resisting? What am I pushing away? Why is it that I'm, tense and holding back? Am I holding on to pain and trauma from the past? how's this affecting me? Can I start to let this go? And there's so many ways to let go. The most basic is actually recognizing this and going, if this had color, if this pain had a color, what would it be? And you might go gray or black. And if I could take this out of my body and visualize a purple fire, which is the color that transforms, and even if you can't visualize, just sense, you've seen purple before.
Okay.
And can I place this negative energy into the purple fire and do that a few times and then check how you feel? I can tell you thousands and tens of thousands of people have said to me, oh my God, just doing this super simple process, I feel so much better.
That's really
But I do,
interesting because your book has a lot of things in it too. I was looking through it, just very quick exercises. So I think this is a great place too for people
yeah,
to start, because you do have a lot of exercises where you walk people through what to do if they're having problems with this, that, or whatever it be. I mean, it's very specific in here, very, very specific for all the problems for people listening. Like I just opened to a page that says sinuses, and then the next page is skeleton and skin. I mean, and then it talks about the remedy, and you tell people exactly what to say to yourself and how to walk through it. And I remember I was reading on one of the pages, it was a lot of visualization stuff too after. And I think that's really key, is to visualize your body in this new energy than you were feeling before. But I think also, like you're saying, recognize the energy that you're holding to start with, and then really visualizing where you're at. And after you let go, how do you feel? What does your energy feel like? But these seem so quick, to be honest. I'm like, wow, this seems a little too easy. I feel like I spend a lot of time when I do work. But I mean, so do you feel like, sure, same for you though, when you do energy work, it's not like a quick, like, "You're done, bye." I mean, so how are some of these things very quick?
well, it's not that you can get quick insights. So the insights can be very quick
Okay.
and be shifts because you've had an insight, and that's actually connected to the astral body, which can change instantaneously because it's all about your emotions, your desires, your sensations, and pain and pleasure are connected to this astral body. But when you're working on something chronic or something very, very deep, you need to repeat, and you need to repeat processes over and over again daily until there is a shift and a change. And what I say to people is journal this because you'll forget. And
Mm,
because what you're trying to do is build on wisdom, build on insights. And like I was talking about the archetypes, you don't work with an archetype once. You work with the particular archetypes. It could be sometimes days, could be weeks, could be months, could be
mm,
years with some. And you're working with it to turn around, to help it to discover things and to change how you're thinking, change how you're feeling, change how you do things
mhm,
in your life. But I just want to come back for a moment to our divinity, right? And how we block it, because I think it's so important.
mhm,
And I had this incredible experience many years ago when I was teaching in France. And it was one of my earlier workshops where I was teaching a workshop called Awaken the Healer Within. And it's over quite a few days. So now I've extended it so over 10 days now, but it was slightly shorter at that time. And I had this man who was in the workshop. So I think I was 27 years old. So I was still very, very young and still trying to understand and discover lots of things. And so he came into the workshop and I didn't know anything about him, but I knew he was numb and blocked. And every exercise we did, he'd put up his hand and he'd go, I'm not getting anything. I'm not seeing anything. I'm not feeling anything. I can't visualize. I don't feel. Nothing's happening for me. And this went on for 3 days and it was affecting participants. So I was kind of going, I have to do something. I really have to help him. I have to deal with this situation. And so I remember thinking on day 4, I really, really hope he comes back because often people don't realize when breakthroughs happen. And so, because you're numb, you're like, nothing's happening, nothing's happening. You don't
Yeah.
realize why nothing's happening. It's because you're holding on to it, and there's reasons. So again, he did show up, and I didn't know that the only reason he came was because he forgot something.
Oh gosh.
And, I just said, and I was saying, okay, we're going to do this really special exercise, and we're going to start by connecting to your heart, but we're going to start with you showing it through your eyes. And so you're going to show people layers of yourself by looking at each other, not speaking, that you hide from other people. And I thought to myself, oh my God, I'm going to tune in to him while he's doing it with somebody else, because I really want to understand why he's so blocked. And so I was tuning into him, and the first image that I got was this wall, like this brick wall. And I went, oh, right. Okay, cool. Yeah, I know this. I see this. And I went, what's behind the brick wall?
Yeah.
And so I went behind the brick wall, and I saw this. It looked like a 6-year-old child.
Hmm.
And again, he was calling for his mother, and the mother wasn't there. She wasn't present. And there was this sense of not just rejection, but it's almost like rejection of self, complete and shutting down from 6 years old. And I remember thinking, okay, cool. I know how to help you now. And when everyone finished exercise, I said to him, okay, you're going to come and be in the center. And today is your lucky day, because your life is going to change. And I said to him, through a translator, because I don't speak French, I said to him, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I want you to know that I know the answer to the question I'm asking. But I'm asking it because I need you to say it and for you
Yeah.
to recognize it. But you can't play games. You can't, because I know the answer to the question. And my question was, who has hurt you so much in your life that you've created these brick walls that you don't allow anybody in at all?
Mhm.
I started saying jokes, and I was like, remember, I know the answer and we don't have a lot of time. So you need to give me the answer. And he said, okay, my mom. And I said, cool. I'm going to play the role of your mom, and I'm going to say things to you so that you can allow this 6-year-old to express himself and let go of what you're holding on to. And so we went through this process. And then I said to him, okay, now every person in this room, and there's about 22 people, he's going to come up to you, and they're going to say something beautiful about you in your heart, and you're going to breathe it in and receive it. So that's what happened. He was doing it. And then at the end, I said to him, how do you feel? And of course, being French, he said, I feel orgasmic. I feel like I'm expanded. I feel like I am fully connected to my heart divinity. And so then we did another process, right? Which was the second layer of the heart process. And, where you actually literally had to call the energetic heart of the person you're working with and discover what was going on there. And so we finished the process. He puts up his hand, and I'm like, oh my God, not again. And he went, no, 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 this is good. This is really, really good. And he says, so I just connected to this person, and by holding the heart, I've learned all this stuff that happened to this person. And I could see, all the challenges, all the issues that happened. And I talked to this person, and she said, yes, that's exactly what happened. And he's like, oh my God, I'm just amazed.
Yeah.
And I was like, so yesterday could not feel or see anything. And now you're telling me the whole story of this person's life, in like a half an hour exercise. And you're seeing everything and you're feeling everything. So the next day he comes back, and I always used to come early to the workshop, and he came an hour early. And there was like flowers everywhere around this workshop, like everywhere. And he said to me, I want to tell you what actually happened in as well. He said, I was listening to the radio a few weeks ago or a month ago, something like that. And, oh, sorry, no. He said, no, I was sitting at my table contemplating suicide.
Sure.
And my radio is next to me. And he said, all of a sudden, the radio just went on. And he said, you were on the radio talking about healing work and what you do. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to kill myself yet. I'm going to come and listen to you because I was doing a free talk. I'm going to come to this talk and then I'm going to sign. And he's like, and I heard you. And I went, I'm going to sign up for this workshop because it's that or nothing. And I hate when people do that. But this was the experience. And he said, yesterday I was not going to come, but I left something and I came to the workshop. And he said, it's like you've given me my life back through learning about this and these processes. And I am a completely different person.
Mhm.
And from this experience, I saw him years later, everything changed. And he connected to that divine essence by connecting to what blocked him from at first, and then his heart, and then the fact that all of these abilities to see, to understand the other person, all of this opened up for him because he opened up, because there was a healing around the part of him that blocked everything, which is why I believe that archetype work and discovering what it really is so vital.
Mhm. Wow. That's a really cool story. That's really amazing for him to saved his life. So I saw on your Instagram that you have an oracle deck for ancestral healing.
Yeah,
I was
I actually
curious. I'm curious.
that's from
How do you use this? How would somebody utilize that deck?
Well, I actually had someone recently at my house pick a card, and she's been really struggling with her family and with challenges in her family. And so she essentially, I'll do it, grabbed the card deck and went, what is it that I need to understand? So shuffled it. What is it that I need to understand in terms of my family and the healing that needs to happen? And she picked a card, and I've just picked one. So bring the club one she picked. But she picked a card and she read it and she said to me, oh my God, she's like, got some work to do here. There's some questions to explore. So I've just picked one that I can read to people. So, which is called Claim Your Kingdom, card 15, just to give you a sense of it.
Okay.
And so this is about really sensing of how do we take on other people's stuff in terms of our family, and where is it really positive and gives us strength, and where are we, blocked. So for instance, this card says claim your kingdom, live on your own terms. So it talks about don't give your power away to outside sources, including your family.
Mm.
It's time to stop letting your past struggles define you. Instead, allow them to offer clarity and growth. Use your painful experiences to create a sound family environment. You have the ability to make choices that will lead to many uplifting experiences. And so I go through what this card is about for a person to reflect on, and then I give a healing practice. And so I haven't read the whole thing, but I like the healing practice looks something like visualize what a healthy family environment can look like. How does yours compare? Be honest and journal what comes to you. Then reflect on what you need to do to create a more healthy, happy environment. Do you need to get clear about your boundaries and lovingly communicate them to others? Maybe there's too much trauma you're still dealing with. You need to explore some inner child work to transform old patterns. And at the beginning of this book, I talk about all the different questions you can ask to create a little spread. So you can do one card readings, you can do choice readings, you can do like 3 card readings. Card 1, what is the biggest issue I need to face in my life right now? Card 2, what do I need to understand about my family or my tribe in order to grow? So you ask the question and then you pick the card. And card 3, what steps do I need to take to heal myself or a family situation? So there's all sorts of ideas of how to work on it. And the idea of the cards is to help you reflect. And there's questions around here. The cards about exploring your relationship with your mother, your feminine lineage, your father, your masculine lineage, your inner child, your family patterns, your self-worth,
Mhm.
and so on.
Wow. Yeah, I love cards, especially when I'm just kind of tired, and it's a little bit harder to start tapping in. I feel
Yeah.
like it's a good, easy way to get a little bit of guidance, and then I feel like I can easily shift over into that spiritual realm, and it's just like a good starting off point. So I'm curious. So since you do all this work, how is your body? Do you feel like you have resolved every health ailment that you could have or do have or did have? Or do you feel like, it's just one of those things where when something surfaces and I kind of tap into where is this coming from and then I deal with it?
Feel like all the big things that I had, I resolved, like the things that were really difficult or painful, or I needed to delve into many layers of it. But essentially, I really believe it's a daily practice. So every day I wake up or when I go to sleep, I do a little scan and I'm like, where am I at? And what else can I work with or transform in my life that is showing up? And it's often not a physical issue. So it'll be something that I'm looking at maybe with my children that I feel, yeah, could be ancestral that is showing up for them, or something that they've experienced. And I'm like, what's it about? How do I understand it? Or it could be I want to grow in my business. I want to grow in sharing what I'm doing. And I might discover that there's some blockages there and I'm somehow holding myself back. And so I'll go, what's that about? Or I get too much into the business and too much doing, doing, doing. And I'm like, oh, my feminine is struggling because I'm just doing too much. And so my relationship with my partner needs attention. So I actually look at themes. I'm constantly exploring themes, whether it's, am I the best parent that I can be? Because for me, that's been super, super important.
Mhm.
Having lost a child and then having children when I was still pretty young.
Oh, that brings me, I was thinking about that. I was like, You didn't tell us. You were told you would have two more
Yeah.
children, and you said it would be pretty soon. Was it shortly after that you got pregnant again?
Yeah, I got pregnant, I think something like 7 months later,
Yeah.
and so I had my son, and then I think it was another 2.5 years later that I had my daughter.
Okay. And that's it. You have just the two.
Yeah, 2. And that's what I was told as well. "You'll have
Yeah.
2 children."
Yeah.
And I'm showing a girl and a boy.
That's really cool. Well, congratulations
Yeah.
on the kids, and I'm sorry you had to go through that because that's every mother's
And
worst.
I don't even know if I would have, because when you have a trauma, people come out of the woodworks and they're like, "Oh, and I know this person had, you know, it happened to them 3 times and 5 times." And I was just like, "Oh my God, don't tell me this because it's so scary. You are so scared," and I just kept kind of going, when I saw this, is this, like, I hope this angel, like, this is a real angel and it was true. And,
Are you
yeah.
real? Oh my gosh, that's funny. Well, thank you so much for coming on and talking a little bit about your book and what you do. Is there anything else you want to share with the listeners about your book or anything upcoming? I know you said you're writing another book.
I really encourage people, if they're interested in anything I've said or anything I do, to go to my website, to go
Okay.
to innasegal.com
Okay.
and I have this whole section on free resources, which are where I've gone through, I've done these master classes on various different topics. And I give people pretty deep processes and wisdom and understanding of what they can start with, what they can do. So if you're very new to this, I would jump on and go to innersegal.com/secret. And this is where you'll see my masterclass, which is only a couple of hours long, on the secret language of your body, how to work with the book, how to understand it, how to understand your your own body and what it's telling you, and also working through pain or understanding how to connect pain to where it may have started. And so you get to do that for free, and ideally have a journal. And if you've gone a little bit deeper and you're like, oh, I want to know about archetypes, then watch my Awaken the Healer Within, which is the innasegal.com/, just masterclass. So either secret or masterclass,
Okay.
to give yourself that opportunity to go on a little journey of discovery rather than just listening and kind of going, yep, yep, yep,
Mhm.
up the experience, and I love to hear from you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much. This has been very interesting, and I'm excited for the people listening because I think a lot of people will buy the book, and I think it will be very helpful and eye-opening. It's fascinating when you oh, how cute. You have your little signature inside the book. That's cute. Well, okay, so I wanna share, though, with people listening how specific this is. You can go to I think it's the back of the book, right? Yeah. In the back, you have the index, and you really lay out all the different things. Like, I just opened up to the letter N, but there's nails, and then narcolepsy, and nausea, nearsightedness, and neck, and so the list goes on, but you can actually look up your very, very specific ailment and then go to the page and kind of figure out where it's possibly coming from, and yeah, like you said, journal about all this. I think that's a really great thing for people to always do when they're working through anything like this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.